Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kyra, and here on my channel we are all about real makeup for real life and real people. If you are new here, I want to say welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. If you do subscribe, it will help you find my videos more easily when I upload on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So today's video is kind of a mixture of things and wrapping up life with the ColourPop Wine Only Palette. I did do a video with my girl Paula over at A Beauty Guru Made Me Do It, and we did our best to dupe the Wine Only palette, see what we had in our collection that might have the same vibes and create similar looks. So I will have those linked down below, of course. But today I created this look for you, and I am also going to do some comparison swatches with the swatches that I thought I found in my own collection versus what is actually inside this little puppy. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get into it. All right. Oliver is here with me this morning, so if you hear bone chomping, that's what's going on down there. And I'm really excited to get into a look with the Wine Only palette, and I'm going to challenge myself today. I want to see if I can get a look that I enjoy just from this palette. We'll talk more about that later, but for now, for my transition and crease shade, I'm going to go into this shade called Sip Sip. This is one of those sequin shadows. Has a good amount of glitter in there, but we're gonna see. I'm hoping that tapping off my brush, a lot of that will come off, the glitter that is, and we'll see how we do. As you can see, however, this is super duper pigmented. I dipped in once, I tapped off my brush. I will say, I don't know if you'll be able to see or not. Yeah, there's a ton of kick up in the pan. So that is something to be aware of. And there are two sequin shades in the shadow, or in this palette rather. So if you're not into that, now you know. And there are no pressed glitters in this palette, which is also nice. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shades in here that are considered not safe for the immediate eye area, most likely due to red pigments in the palette. A lot of red pigments can be irritating to those with sensitive skin, and therefore they put on the warning on palettes, you know, when there are those pigments. So that's really pretty. The next shade I want to go to is this one right here, which is called Catch a Chateau, which I think is really cute. And I'm going to apply this on about the outer half of the lid, and this is a really pretty shade. It's kind of more pinky from what I can tell, and or like a raspberry shade, I think. And I do think this is going to be similar to the one that I pulled from the Persona Identity 2 palette. So we shall see. I'm also going to pull this up in the crease just a little bit. This is a really nice smooth shimmer, and I'm liking how it looks. Okay, I'm going to take my finger and just blend out this edge a little bit here. So we'll have a nice blend with the next color. Taking my original brush here and just making sure everything is nice and blended in the crease how I want it. I think I'm going to take that same shade, Cast a Chateau, on my phalange. Yeah, there we go. Punch it up just a little. So one of the shades I'm most excited to try is this one up here, which is called Blanc. So I'm going to put that on about the inner third to half of the lid. And I'm using this sort of pinched fluffy brush, which I've been talking about a lot lately, that I like doing this with certain shimmers because it helps prevent some texture on my lids. It's blending beautifully into that other shade. It's almost like they don't have much difference on the eye, but in the pan they look very different. One thing I definitely feel like this palette is missing is a light shade for highlighting the inner corner of the eye, but it's never a deal breaker. I don't feel like every palette can or should even have everything. And then I want to try that shade Wet just for Gets and Shiggles, see how she does. So I'm gonna pick that up, nice amount. This is my Mario Badescu spray in the orange scent, and just tap this on lightly. Beautiful. Definitely punched up the shine. I don't know that it made much difference in terms of the tone, making it appear lighter on the lid or anything, but it does work well with the spray, and I don't find that to be the case with all shimmers. Some of them get really crusty and yucky when you place them on the eye. I definitely want to deepen the outer corner, and I'm a little scared of this deepest shade right here, which is called Grapeful. It has a ton of glitter in it. So instead, I think I'm gonna go into this matte right here, which is called Vinter, and just deepen up the very outer corner a little bit. First, taking it along the upper lash line before I bring it up toward the crease. Pulling it up a little bit to bring it up toward the crease, and then let it go to the crease. And then whatever's left on the brush, just bringing along this outer part of the lower lash line. And then I'm going to repeat that one more time, especially on the outer part of the eye here. I really want to deepen that. And this is a little pencil brush that I got from Sonia Kashuk. You can buy her brushes at Target if you have a Target available to you. Yeah, I really like that better. We'll blend that in just a sec. We're gonna make the other side match first. Again, this has quite a lot of kick up in the pan, so if that bothers you, I would probably skip this palette. I'm gonna just take this brush that we used with the deeper, allegedly, shimmer to just blend that into the crease, make sure there's no harsh lines. And then I'm going to take a clean blending brush and just make sure everything is nice and blended. I really don't feel like the palette, like I said, has an inner corner highlight for me, so I'm going to just use the highlighter that I used on my face today, which is the Rose Gold shade in the Charlotte Tilbury Bar of Gold palette that is in my Shop Mustache this month. And pick this up on a little domed, dense brush and pull that into the inner corner and kind of brighten by way of pulling this shade up in front of the transition. I am definitely enjoying this little highlight palette so far. Let me know if any of you have this palette. I would love to know. Highlighted we is. Now I'm gonna pop off of here, do some liner and mascara and something with the hair, and then I'll be back. We're gonna do some swatch comparisons with the dupes that I tried to find in my When in Doubt Dupe It Out video, which of course will be linked down below if you missed it, and we'll talk about my feelings on the palette as well. All right, we're back. What do you think about the thing? The ensemble, the not matching? I finished off the look with a brown liner and my L'Oreal Air Volume Mega Mascara. And then for lips, I lined with my NYX lip pencil in Natural. And then I finished off the lip with the NARS Power Matte, what are you called? Power Matte Lip Pigment in the shade American Woman. I really love this shade and I thought it went kind of nice with this look. So there you go. All right, let's go ahead and get into some comparison swatches here. Unfortunately, I didn't go shade by shade when I was duping the palette with Paula, and so I don't know that I'm gonna have like shade by shade comparisons like I've been able to do with other palettes. So we're just gonna do our best job and not really go in order. What I'm gonna do is swatch the shade from my dupes and then swatch something that I think is close or that I was getting close to from the Wine and Only palette. So we're first going to start out with the dupes that I pulled from the BH Cosmetics Smitten in Switzerland palette. I had these two shades right here, I believe. Yodel, no it isn't. It is these two shades right here, Yodel and Zurich. So starting with Yodel, I did use this as a part of my look that I created with my dupes. So there's that one. And I think that one is probably closest to either Sip Sip or Major Chianti, one of these two. Let's try. Now, Sip Sip is a sequin shadow, so it does have a bunch of glitter. I think it's probably closer to Major Chianti. Chianti. This is terrible. I always think of Silence of the Lambs when I hear the word Chianti. Okay. Next, we have the shade Zurich in the BH palette. And I believe I had this one duping the shade Cast a Chateau. This one right here that I used on the outer part of my lid today. So there's those two together. And definitely not dupes. I mean, they look, yeah, they're not dupes. The Cast a Chateau shade from the Wine and Only palette is definitely more warm tone, whereas Zurich from BH is definitely more cool tone, and so I would say not a dupe. Next, let's get into the dupes that I found in the Saharan palette by Juvia's Place. I believe there were two shades. The first one was this one, which is Bororo. And then the other one that I had in here was this one, Zoya. So let's start with Zoya because I picked this one to dupe the first shade in the palette, which is called Blanc. And not too shabby. This is Zoya and this is Blanc. So there's definitely a peachy quality to both of these shades. I definitely wouldn't say that they're dupes, but they're pretty close. So with the shade that I can't pronounce, which hopefully I put on the screen, I think I also picked this one as a possible dupe for, I think I picked this for the shade Play to Wine, this one right here. Sorry, the packaging being burgundy and then just a slightly deeper burgundy metallic lettering makes it really hard to read. So this is the one from Juvia's Place and this is the one from Wine and Only. Let's build it up a little bit. I think those are pretty close. What do we think here? Not too shabby. The next palette I pulled was the Viseart Petite Pro 2. My girl Paula is working on panning this year. And the shade that I pulled out was this one, the 7th shade in the palette. I don't know the name or if there even is one. And I compared this one to the shade down here in the center in the last row, which is Mon Chéri. So there's the Viseart. And there is Mon Chéri. Let me build that up for you. Look at that. Probably the closest we got, which is really interesting to me because the one in the Viseart palette looks so much more purple to me than this one. So I don't know. I find that really interesting, but it's cool, and it makes me a little more interested in using this palette. So the next palette that I pulled from was the Persona Identity 2 palette, and the shade that I'm talking... Stay up, would you? The shade I'm talking about is this one down here called Empowered. This is a really pretty like raspberry shade, and I think I also pulled this one for Cast a Chateau. So there is Persona 2, and there is the Wine and Only palette. So not at all similar, but I gotta say I do prefer the shade Empowered from Persona. I think that's a really, really beautiful shade. One of my favorite shades in this palette. All right, going into the Norvina Volume 1, I picked out the shade E5, under the E5. And that's this very last shade in the palette. So I think that this shade probably matches best with the shade Venter in the ColourPop palette. Oh yeah, look at those. Those are pretty similar. So this is Norvina 1, and this is ColourPop. Actually, the ColourPop has like more purple plum to it, and it's definitely deeper, whereas the one from Norvina is definitely more of like a warm burgundy shade. Beautiful nonetheless. And the last shade that I picked as a dupe comes from the Norvina Volume 3 palette. These palettes are actually pretty damn good when it comes to duping palettes. The shade that I picked out of here was this one called C4. These are great names, right? And I think the shade that I picked this out for was for the last shade in the palette, which is called Grapeful. This is the one that is like chock full of glitter. Huh. Also not close at all. Where are we at here? So here is C4 from Norvina Volume 3 and Grapeful from ColourPop. So I believe the only one I didn't have a dupe that I related directly to this palette is Mull It Over, this shade right here. I'm going to go ahead and swatch that one and see if it's close to any of the ones on my hand here. Well, that was a crap swatch. So there's that one. I would say that is probably closer to C4 from Norvina 3, but this is what we have here. And you know, there's some of them that I think are really close, like obviously this one right here. This one's pretty close. The peachy shade's pretty close. Definitely got some vibes from the palette, did we not? I'm gonna wipe this all off before I get it on my clothes, and then we're gonna talk about my thoughts on the palette. Okay, let's talk about this palette. The Wine and Only palette. While I love burgundy, I don't like predominantly red, pink, or burgundy looks on my eyes. I just don't. It's a personal preference. And I bought this palette because I love burgundy and wine shades so much, but I do have a few gripes with this palette. Number one, the shade Grapeful right here, that is just a bomb of glitter. It's really hard to, sorry, I have crumbs of eyeshadow everywhere. It's probably going on my carpet. It's all good. It's fine. It's good. But this has like a bomb of glitter in here, and there's nothing I don't think that you could do to get that glitter to stick on your lids and stay there. It's going to be Fallout City. I just don't think, I don't mind like the sequin shadows, like this one right here called Sip Sip. I don't know if you, yeah, right here you should be able to see the little bit of sparkle in there. I don't mind that at all. It typically just falls off my brush when I tap it off before I apply it to my eyes, but this is a little scary. Other than that, like, I really like the colors and everything in this palette. Like I said, I think this is something I would rather pair with some other neutrals or other matte shades that would help me come out with a look that isn't predominantly red, pink, burgundy, so on. So here are my feelings. I am a little disappointed in myself that I grabbed this palette at all. I don't know that it's something that I will reach for a lot. It's probably like some of my other palettes in my collection that will simply rotate through my Shop My Stash from time to time. It's hard to say though. You know, I could get to like fall time or late fall, early winter and really love this color story. It's possible. But it's also possible it will sit in my drawer like some of my other palettes and really just be something that I kind of force myself to use and rotate through my collection. It has nothing at all to do with the quality of the palette. Other than the shade Grapeful, I thought the rest of them were just fine. They perform well. While they have a bit of kick up, that's not a deal breaker for me. But this was probably not my most shining moment in picking out products to add to my collection. I clearly have a lot of similar shades, and I didn't even swatch my entire collection. I just tried to stick to palettes that are still available on the market now. So yeah, I mean, it's a good palette, good quality. I don't dissuade you from purchasing it if you feel like it's going to add value and variety to your collection. For me, I probably could have skipped it. It's definitely going to be more of a companion palette for me, but there are shades in here that are absolutely stunning. I just obviously have a variety of wine shades in my collection, so I'm not mad about it, but again, not my shining moment in terms of making decisions to add to my collection. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this little journey with me. I hope you enjoyed today's look. Tell me all your thoughts about the Wine and Only palette and my choice in picking it up. And I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful makeup days. And I will see you in my next video real soon.